Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov hoped Trump's reasonable Ukraine stance sways the European Union. What is that reasonable stance? Delaying aid? Is the reasonable stance giving Russia an unlimited amount of time to do anything it wants? Not doing sanctions? What is the reasonable stance? And what does the European Union need to be swayed on? Foreign Minister expressed hope that US President Donald Trump's reasonable position on the Ukrainian conflict will influence the European Union's stance on the matter. Russia Today reported on Tuesday. Hello, fake Alec, Kyle Parker. During a press conference in Moscow after holding talks with Mozambique's Foreign Minister Maria Manuela Lucas Lavrov, stressed the need for constructive engagement from the European, because Russia does only constructive engagement. Money for Lucy. Thank you very much for the $10. Thank you. I will use it for a wise cause. And by wise cause, I mean, I'm going to use it for something very, very good indeed. Okay, what is the constructive approach that the European Union needs to adopt regarding Ukraine? I really hope that the reasonable approach that the Trump administration showed in this situation after it replaced the Biden administration, which spoke in unison with the unhinged Europeans, Jesus Christ Almighty, yet the reasonable stance is to overpromise, say that you will end the conflict before you take office in 24 hours, half a year, 100 days, 2 weeks, and 50 days. Okay, that's so reasonable. To praise Vladimir Putin for bombing cities, the reasonable stance is to delay aid or even just block aid. The reasonable stance is to stop sharing intel. The reasonable stance is to call Zelensky a dictator. And the reasonable stance finally is to promise anti-air systems and just delay them indefinitely. That is the most reasonable stance. And I guess according to Mr. Lavrov, supporting Ukraine against a genocidal regime conducting an invasion is just unhinged. Unhinged Europeans. That this reasonable approach, which includes a willingness to dialogue and a willingness to listen and hear, a willingness to throw Ukraine under the bus, translation of this whole gibberish, will not go unnoticed by the Europeans. Despite all the current discussions about the need to arm the Kyiv regime again and again and again at the expense of European taxpayers, Lavrov stated, according to Russia Today. That is really low effort propaganda. That is really low. But the worst part is that there are definitely people that this will work on. There are definitely people that they will hear this and it'll be like, hey, I am a taxpayer, and I don't want my money to go to funding the Kyiv regime again and again and again and again and again. Probably people that this will work on. While Trump had pledged to end the Russia-Ukraine conflict, he admitted last month that resolving the war was more difficult than people would have any idea. Listen, I hate to be this person. I hate to be, I hate to praise myself too much. I actually hate to praise myself at all. Anybody that knows me will, attest to the fact that I hate to praise myself at all. But the moment Trump took office, I said, and I quote, it'll be just like with healthcare during his first term. You remember when Trump very arrogantly during his first term came in and was like, I'm going to fix American healthcare. I'm going to make it cool and great. And then he basically didn't and said, who knew healthcare was so difficult? I didn't know. I could not have predicted that healthcare was such a complicated topic. But before he was like, yeah, easy. I'm just going to come in and fix it. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to easy peasy lemon squeezy. And then, well, no, it's complicated. It's much more complicated than I anticipated. And now we're seeing the same thing with Ukraine. I'm going to come in. I'm going to step in. I'm just going to end it. Just like that. Part of the deal. I'm gonna end it immediately. Joe Biden, this is Biden's war. This is the Democrats' war. And now it's, oh no, once again, this is far more complicated than I could have ever anticipated. And, this is just a pattern. It's just a pattern with Mr. Donald. Who knew politics were so hard? I know, right? This is just, well, so far, direct talks between Russia and Ukraine, facilitated by Washington, have not produced tangible outcomes and have primarily focused on humanitarian matters such as prisoner exchanges and recovery of soldiers. Remains Russia Today noted. By the way, there were new talks right now, okay? While all this has been happening, the protests, the bill, what have you, there was a new round of negotiations, and guess what? No progress was made. What a shock. Are you surprised? Are you surprised to hear that a new round of negotiations brought no progress when it comes to peace? But Russia has agreed to exchange more prisoners of war. 3,000, I think. No, how many? I don't know. I don't even remember the number. There's going to be an exchange of prisoners of war. And there's going to be, oh no, the 3,000, I think the 3,000 is about the exchange of dead bodies. That's the exchange. Because there's gonna be exchanging dead bodies of soldiers. And there's gonna be an exchange of prisoners of war. But, part of the deal. It's gonna be, also, I might as well note while we're talking about this that, believe it or not, Russian family members of Russian soldiers actually don't want the exchange of prisoners of war. Did you know? Did you know that the relatives of Russian soldiers do not want the exchange of prisoners of war? And do you know why? I'm going to give you a hint. I'm not going to give you a hint. I'm just going to tell you. It's because they figure that if the soldiers are in Ukrainian captivity, at least they will live. Yeah, that's right. The Russian families bank on their relatives being prisoners in Ukrainian captivity because until, as long as they're kept captive, they will not die. Because when they get exchanged, Russia just sends them back to the front line to die. So the relatives are like, maybe they should just stay captive. So they will not die. It is what it is. Has held multiple conversations with Russian President Vladimir Putin and a little bird, and by little bird I mean President Donald Trump himself, has noted that all of the conversation have been excellent. Okay, so instead of saying that he has held multiple conversations, I should be saying Trump has held multiple excellent conversations with Russian President Vladimir Putin in recent months. According to Russia Today, Trump recently criticized Putin for resisting a settlement and warned of sanctions against Russia and its trade allies. If the conflict is not resolved by autumn, 50 days deadline, what will happen? Will the deadline be met? Will Russia just sign peace in 50 days? Terrified of Donald Trump's secondary tariffs or sanctions, because I guess the words just became interchangeable. Sanction, tariff, it's all the same now. The rules of engagement have changed forever. In response, the Kremlin conveyed a measured stance towards the US president's remarks. I'm pretty sure they just rejected the whole 50-day deadline, and reiterated its commitment to continuing talks with Washington. RT quoted Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov as saying the US should instead focus on influencing Ukraine, as always. What has the US been doing all this time if not pressuring Ukraine, by the way? What do you mean you should focus instead on influencing Ukraine? That has been the strategy of Trump from the get-go. To pressure Zelensky, to pressure Ukraine, and put zero pressure on Russia, the invader. Ridiculous, of course, but what can I say? And it's the Europeans that are unhinged, I guess. It appears that the Ukrainian side takes all statements of support as signals to continue war, not as signals for peace. That's ironic, considering that during all the negotiation talks, during all of this, all that Russia has been doing is to increase the level of attacks, increase the level of bombings, increase the level of drone strikes. So I don't know which side really takes all of this as a signal to continue attacking. Oh wait, it's Russia. It's Russia, absolutely. Russia is taking all of this as a signal, as a green light to escalate, and it's using this opportunity fully. It's been a very intense timeline. So that's interesting. That is a bit impromptu. That was a bit, I gave you a little bit of an unexpected segment. Europeans, please stop being unhinged. Please listen to Trump's reasonable stance and just allow Russia to do whatever the hell it wants.